Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. How are you doing today? Okay.
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Maybe you could kick off with a brief introduction to Night's End. For people who don't know anything about it, what can they expect?
Well, it is the story of a man who moves to a new city, and into an apartment. You learn pretty quickly that he has a extremely isolated, methodical, perhaps unhinged, he's struggling with some demons when the movie begins, and which becomes really clear in terms of his own psychological state. And I play his ex-wife. All of his relationships are on his computer. He doesn't leave his apartment. He's a shut-in. Um, and it becomes clear pretty early in the movie that there's some weird things happening in this apartment that he's moved into,
Mm.
which all sort of manifest in this reality where he's only communicating with anyone via his computer.
Mhm. And it's, very firmly kind of in the horror genre, but it also feels very much of the time of, the years of the pandemic, us all being isolated
Oh
on
yeah.
home on our own, communicating through screens. And but what was the initial appeal for you, when you read the script?
Well, I liked the relationship. I like a relationship, especially between exes, that is healthy and supporting and loving. I think that's kind of an interesting thing to see in a movie. And my character definitely adores her ex-husband and wishes the very best for him in his life. So I liked that, and I relate to that. It was, I come from divorced parents who took on that relationship with one another of genuinely supporting and loving each other. So I like to see that in film. I'm not like drawn to horror usually, but I loved the sort of the way that the horror itself manifests from this really very real thing that, like you said, I think we were all feeling this isolation and really being alone with your own self, um, in the way that we have been for the past few years. I find that really fascinating, and so I was drawn to that as well.
Mm. And I believe you've worked with Jennifer before,
Yeah,
and
I
she
love Jennifer.
definitely one of, was it Bong Joon-ho said for the Parasite director, it's like she's one of the directors to watch. So, what do you like about working with her, and what is she like as a director?
Well, she's the coolest person I've ever met, ever will be. I mean, she's an amazing, she's like just a complete badass, like tats all over, black hair, sort of like, you know, you wouldn't mess with her. And yet she's like a mom in the truest sense of a mom. Like she sends me pictures of her kids' lunches sometimes. She's like, uh, really fascinating that way. And I always say on set, she's a mom. She's like, she knows how to take care of people. She knows how to be aware of everything. She knows how to multitask, get everything done at the same time. Um, she's fantastic. I also I think she's a really dark sensibility that I enjoy. Very artistic. She's an artist, prior to being a filmmaker. And, um, I didn't think she'd be able to pull it off, like with one location and using nothing but computer screens, but she actually does. But the other movie we did, Knives and Skin, is just like moving art. I mean, it's just beautiful images and lots of weird, dark images. So yeah, I love her.
And what was the shoot like? Because obviously it must be a bit weird, sort of filming, in like kind of like not always being in the same room. And so, what was it like working with your fellow actors, with Gino and with Michael Shannon, and what were the sort of highlights and challenges of the actual shoot of the film?
Yeah, it's like almost impossible as an actor. And we did definitely, you know, take care of each other in that we stayed in the room and like played the scenes together. But I was just saying that makes it even harder because, you know, here's this man that you want to be talking to and you can't look at him. You have to keep staring at like this little thing. And so I would screw up all the time and be like, oh, God damn it, I'm looking at you again instead of this little piece of tape that's supposed to be you. So it was a very odd shoot. Yeah.
Mhm. And, you know, what do you hope that people take away from watching a film like this? I mean, you were sort of hitting on some of the points there at the beginning, you know, and how horror in a way can be an interesting medium for us to kind of think out or have catharsis of the anxieties
Yeah.
and the things that are troubling us. And the idea that, you know, our fears kind of can manifest themselves almost more when we are left alone and when we are isolated. And you know, are we going to have all been a bit affected by these 2 years and we don't even know it yet, just how it's impacted us? So do you think there's lots of issues in there that kind of can be drawn out of
Yeah, I couldn't possibly say it better than you just did. But to me, that really is the appeal of this movie and what makes it interesting. You know, I mean, monsters are fun for lots of people. I can't do them myself, but yes, I love that sort of extension of the internal into the external.
it? And do you think it's also a really interesting time for female directors, particularly in this space? I feel like I've, you know, watched so many amazing films that kind of have this horror bent from female directors, and
Yeah,
almost kind of, even though, you know, like the protagonist is a man, it's like through a female lens, through a feminine lens.
yeah.
And it seems to bring something new and different than perhaps what we've seen in the past.
I agree, and I think women do tend to be more interested in internal struggles um, and being kind of raw about them in a way that actually horror um, serves. You know, it's yeah. I think Jen was very much the right director for this project, and I think as a woman, the focus on his internal life was probably brought into the forefront.
Mm. And do you think, though, that there's still a way to go for opening up the landscape for female filmmakers, writers? You know, there's obviously been progress, but, you know, do we need to see that opened up more, and perhaps, I don't know, bigger budgets and more different types of films, different storytellers being brought into the
Yeah.
mix?
Yeah, I'm ready for Jen to have her multi-million dollar budget and see what she does. You know, it's just such an easy answer for me. I'm so fascinated by female voices, and I think there's so much room, and certainly room for a lot of growth in terms of having the support around them to really tell bigger, louder stories.
Mm, definitely. And can you quickly tell us what you're going to be working on next? Do you already have something lined up or not yet?
So, I've actually been working on another project with Mike called George and Tammy about George Jones and Tammy Wynette. The last project I did for HBO, which is the Lakers series, is just coming out here now. It's probably not there just yet. And the next thing I'm doing is actually a play I wrote at my theater company in Chicago, called Another Marriage. Also, inspired by my parents' marriage, and also very much about a marriage that sort of struggles to find its place after a pretty gnarly divorce and with a child. Um, so yeah, that's my next year.
Mm. Amazing. Well, it's been so great to chat to you. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us, and can't wait for everyone else to see Night's End. So thanks so much.
Cool. Take care.
Lovely to speak to you. Thanks.